The women's main event scene on WWE Raw is currently dominated by four people. Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley, her WrestleMania opponent Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan, and Nia Jax. Now, the common logic on paper, it's two heels, Rhea and Nia, and two baby faces, Becky and Liv. But is that going to change? Welcome to SVS Wrestling on YouTube and the SVS Wrestling podcast from Silo Voice Studios in Montreal. I'm Jason C. McLean. Seeing as things might change by the time you see this, it's important to put a date stamp. I'm recording this March 7th, 2024. And just a few days ago, there was Monday Night Raw. Becky was having a match with Nia. Liv interfered, attacked Nia, got Becky disqualified, went face-to-face with Becky in the ring. This, of course, was payback for the previous week when Becky had interrupted Liv's match with Nia. Backstage, they had a confrontation, and we find out that next week it's going to be Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan. Now, the logical result of this will be that Nia Jax interferes in that match, and we have a match maybe between Liv Morgan and Nia Jax at WrestleMania, while Becky still keeps her world title match against Rhea Ripley. Maybe the Nia and Liv match could be in a steel cage. I'm not sure. That could be good. That could be interesting. But what if we're doing something else here? What if we're changing one or both of the two baby faces heel? Let's start with Becky. And in particular, let's start with the WrestleMania 40 kickoff event. Now, the big takeaway from this show is, of course, what happened with Roman Reigns, The Rock, Cody Rhodes, and Seth Rollins. And because that was so messy, everything else, understandably, went pretty much by rote, including the segment with Rhea Ripley, the presumptive winner against Nia Jax, talking about how she didn't care who she faced from the Elimination Chamber. And then the presumptive Elimination Chamber winner, Becky Lynch, came out. But something caught my attention at the very beginning of Becky's promo.
You didn't think that you could have a big-time WrestleMania press conference without big-time Bex now, did you?
Okay, maybe that was nothing. Yes, big-time Bex is Becky Lynch's, for those of you who don't know, heel character. The man's her babyface character. Big-time Bex is the heel character she had from 2021 until 2022, basically SummerSlam to SummerSlam. And the fact that she brought it back here, it kind of fit. It was an interesting throwaway line at the beginning, maybe. And there was all the man music playing, so obviously she was still a babyface. But it did ring a little bell in my head that maybe there was something more to this. My next clue came at the Elimination Chamber press conference. Yes, Becky did refer to herself as the man, but the whole time she was on stage alone with Bianca Belair, her whole attitude, presentation, even the sunglasses screamed big-time Bex and her old character. Now, this could have just been a situational thing. After all, big-time Bex did start with and end with Bianca Belair. Long story short, in case you weren't watching, she tricked Belair into a title match, beat her in a few seconds at SummerSlam, and then lost the title, or didn't win the title back from her a second time in a row at the next year's SummerSlam. And then Damage Control was basically formed, and she stood up with Bianca, and the next time she was the man. So maybe being in a confrontational role with Bianca brought back the old character. And maybe I'm reading too much into this, but this is the second time. And if I know anything about Triple H, he definitely loves his hints. Also, in Elimination Chamber, Becky didn't do a surprise roll-up, but she, out of nowhere, hit the manhandle slam and then rolled up Liv Morgan, which wasn't exactly a heel way to win, but it wasn't exactly the most babyface way to win either. Now, the third time happened just this past week. There was a big-time Bex sign in the crowd on Monday Night Raw. Yes, I know it's a sign. People bring signs to shows all the time in wrestling. It shouldn't mean anything, except for the fact that she looked at it and the camera focused on the back of her head with the sign clearly visible behind her for a few seconds. That might have been another hint. At least that's how it read to me. And it would make sense that she could turn. Maybe with everything going on with Nia and Liv getting in her way, and she's just trying to focus on Rhea. Maybe she figures that the man really can't beat Rhea. She has to become big-time Bex to beat Mommy. Or maybe she loses to Rhea, and then she becomes big-time Bex after WrestleMania. Who knows? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think there's a lot of hints, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Now, let's talk about Liv Morgan. That one's a little bit less hint-based and more character development-based. Let's go back to Elimination Chamber. In particular, when she eliminated Tiffany Stratton. I don't think anyone thought that Liv Morgan would become a heel out of this going into Elimination Chamber. She clearly went in as a babyface. And as far as WWE was concerned, Tiffany Stratton, the newcomer, was definitely the heel. But that Perth crowd really made it clear that they supported Tiffany and they wanted their Tiffy time. And that obviously became obvious to the women in the ring as well, too. And when Liv Morgan went to eliminate her, she knew she would get booed, so she leaned into it. She smiled, she cackled after doing it, almost taunting the crowd. And she kept that heel persona up, that situational heel persona up for the rest of the match. But then, on Raw, she legitimately got screwed out of her match with Nia Jax when Becky Lynch interfered. But when she confronted Becky backstage about it, she did so with absolutely real and visceral frustration and dismissal. She said, "Hey, I was doing something about there. It's not only about you." And if you want an example of legitimate gripes handled with frustration and dismissal leading to a heel turn, just look at Drew McIntyre. Maybe the same thing's in store for Liv Morgan. And that brings us to Monday. Liv Morgan got Becky Lynch disqualified and now has a match with her next week. Yes, I'm well aware that Liv Morgan has a very passionate online fan base that would love nothing more than to see her included in the Rhea Ripley-Becky Lynch match at WrestleMania as a triple threat or possibly in a fatal four-way with Nia Jax. I don't think that's going to happen. Unlike We Want Cody, this doesn't have the storyline legitimacy. Cody Rhodes legitimately won the Royal Rumble, so replacing him with Rock was just bad storytelling. Becky Lynch, on the other hand, did win the Elimination Chamber, so replacing her with Liv Morgan doesn't have the same value. However, the match might happen, and if it does happen, the only way I can actually see it happening is if there's a heel turn from either Liv or Becky, or maybe both of them. Of course, I don't necessarily think that heel turn is going to happen at WrestleMania if it does. And I think after WrestleMania, we very well may have a feud between Becky and Liv. The last time they fought, Liv was the babyface. So maybe this time, Liv will be the heel. Or maybe it'll be Liv against Big Time Bex, who she fought before too. Could be interesting. I'm absolutely sure they're not turning Nia Jax babyface. And Rhea Ripley, they're really trying to keep her heel. I mean, if they weren't, they wouldn't have brought out Dominic Mysterio to introduce her after her Elimination Chamber victory, and they wouldn't be putting the two on camera anymore. The easiest way to make Becky Lynch as a babyface, the easiest way to make Rhea Ripley a babyface is break her away from Judgment Day. But that's my investigation, conspiracy theory, call it what you want. It's my theory of what might happen. Not a certainty, just a theory. Do you think Becky Lynch might turn heel? Do you think Liv Morgan might turn heel? Do you think the WrestleMania main event will change? I honestly think it should stay the way it is, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments. And make sure to follow at Silo Wrestling on X, at SBS Reviews on Instagram and Facebook, and at Jason C. McLean on X and Instagram. See you next time.